Welcome back to my ranking of Quentin Tarantino films, part 2, and this is my final top 5. Number 5, The Hateful Eight. This is to me Tarantino's unrightfully unloved child in his filmography. For whatever reason, this wasn't warmly received by fans at the time of its release. Yes, it's long. Yes, the decision to shoot on 70mm is a little confusing at first glance, as most of it is confined to a claustrophobic cabin, and the big reveal could have been more of a big twist. But what's here to me is mostly a fingertip away from mastery. Tarantino's pen works in a way like a master chess player in this film, cerebrally positioning the characters' stances and slowly revealing their background and designs in a way that keeps these 8, at first enigmatic strangers, compelling. I love that he takes so much time up until the first 90-minute mark, just establishing not only the characters but the dark, frosty and paranoid-filled atmosphere of the film, which is new to the director. He's never been this concentrative in setting a mood, and it raises the film above some of his earlier works. It's halfway through that the film's mystery, whodunit plot accelerates, which puts off some people, but I love the film suddenly transforms into a stage play, with all the characters in this confined space interacting and manoeuvring around each other to hide their identity and illuminate others. This is where the 70mm film format that the film is shot in shows its benefit. Because the film's lenses are so wide, we see so much more of the room and the characters it inhabits, and immerses us much more than if it was shot on a smaller format. If any film of Quentin's is destined to become a hidden gem, this is it. Number 4, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Tarantino's most recent film is a thought-provoking, ponderous and love-filled wish to what Hollywood could have been and could be. I saw it when it came out last year and loved it, but I thought it would be lost on people who weren't as plugged into the history of Hollywood. But this is a big financial success, which is strangely reassuring, as a film like this probably is considered old-fashioned in the current age of cinematic universes and their endless sequels, prequels and soft reboots. In contrast to his other works, I feel like this is his most chilled out film. This film has a breezy, free-flowing and reflective energy which rewards rewatches, which is very different from the tension-filled, action-packed nature from most of his other movies. And it being his 10th film, I welcome the more relaxed, sun-soaked vibe of the film. All this lulls the audience in a false sense of security by slowly creeping up to the Manson murders and brilliantly rewriting the history books with one of the director's most firework-filled ending sequences. I'll never forget watching it for the first time with an audience in the cinema, which is fitting that this film, like no other, celebrates the movie-going experience. With the rise of streaming services, cinema is seemingly a slowly eroding subculture, but with films like this that benefit in seeing on a big screen, proves cinema still has life left in it. Number 3, Jackie Brown. What was once thought to be the black sheep of his works has slowly become the academics and cinephiles' sole pick as being his most accomplished film. It's funny how that works. This is his most under-directed film. The hallmarks of Tarantinoisms are still there, the needle drops, the pulpy narrative, the lyrical dialogue, but it's all restrained in comparison to his other works, which gives this more of a formal feel. Which is strange, as all his other films are so directed with a capital D. At the time, I'm sure people felt it didn't feel like a proper Tarantino film. As we've got 9 films that most people would agree are quote-unquote proper Tarantino films, this remains an anomaly that is a thematically rich, melancholy study on middle age, and looking back on what you should have done, how you got to where you are, and if you can change your circumstances or if it's too late. All this is anchored by Pam Grier's lead performance as Jackie Brown, maybe the most realised female character in Tarantino's ever written. Not that I think he's a slouch when it comes to his female characters either. Once again, Jackie Brown lacks the stimulating design of his other films, but its story and characters don't call for it. This film is like drinking a fine, expensive red wine, so much so that now you've been exposed to a more sophisticated tier of Tarantino, his other films might seem childish in comparison. I personally don't, but many people who don't like Tarantino point to this film and say it's the only one of his they like, and I get that sentiment. Number 2, Inglorious Basterds. In my opinion, maybe his most flawless film. A film that never gets old or loses its potency. I can watch it in any mood at any time. I feel there's not much to say that all the great things about this film hasn't been exhausted already in discourse. The opening scene is one of the best ever. Hans Landa is Tarantino's greatest creation, played way too well by Christoph Waltz. The ending is bonkers yet perfect. The scene with the Nazis and the undercover British agent at the bar is like a mini Reservoir Dogs with the fat cut. So all I can do is maybe go over what I love that hasn't been talked about that much. I love Chapter 3 set in France following the one-way budding romance of Shoshana and the Nazi. I love the old school production design of the 40s France. It's so intoxicating. A lot of love gets shown towards the set design in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and the recreation of 1960s Los Angeles, but the department needs some love for their work in this film, and just the idea of a Nazi soldier falling for a girl hiding her Jewish identity over suspenseful sequences at breakfast with Joseph Goebbels of all people sitting next to her is only something like a creative mind Tarantino can come up with. Also, I love the meta-analysis of films acting as propaganda, as the film reverses the propaganda films made by Joseph Goebbels during the Nazi regime to glamorise the Nazis, to now Tarantino making a film embarrassing and retconning them by rewriting history. All in all, everything comes together so well and joyfully that not only is it one of the best Tarantino films, but also one of the best films of the 2000s. Number 1, Pulp Fiction. Yeah, it's an obvious pick, but when you make one of the most groundbreaking, influential and greatest crime films ever, it's quite frankly hard to top. The ripples of the wave this film caused since its release are still felt to this day. It's hard to imagine where film history would be without it. It got people and filmmakers to think differently about how you approach a film, how you can play around with structure to benefit your story, how dialogue about seemingly trivial things about Big Macs, foot massages and the differences between pigs and dogs can express and give us insight about its characters, how plot scopes themselves can be small and self-contained, but thematically be far-reaching and all-encompassing. Tarantino's signature wordplay has never been more poetic, especially the last face-off in the diner with Tim Roth and Samuel L. Jackson. The day Tarantino wrote that exchange, he cemented himself to me as one of the all-time great screenwriters. I love how the scene works both as a deep-fried noir negotiation scene as well as analysis on the nature of man. It's some near genius level stuff. I have to mention the cinematography of the film as well, as I don't think it gets brought up that much. The film has such a unique look to it in terms of the lighting. It looks faded and blown out in a really cool way, and I've never seen a film lit like this before. There's a reason this film's poster is on every film student's dorm wall, and has been referenced and homaged the amount it has, and has been studied, dissected and assessed by scholars, academics, students and film fans. There's a lot packed in it, but overall it's just a really entertaining film, and that goes to the rest of his filmography as well. As much as his films are meta, postmodern subversion of codes and conventions of the films that inspired them, they are as well just extremely watchable and fun movies that anyone can enjoy, which to me separates him from other highly regarded film directors.